Yellowstone supervolcano eruption can go off any time and will happen again. Experts warn. Tom Fish expressed UK reports concerning Yellowstone volcano that it could erupt at any time with potentially apocalyptic consequences. An expert warns Yellowstone National Park is a very scenic, tranquil wilderness. It attracts millions of tourists every year, but lurking under this area is the supervolcano, thousands of times more powerful than a regular volcano. There are about 20 supervolcanoes worldwide. This is the most studied, Yellowstone. Volcanologists now controversially warning how Yellowstone should in fact explode at any time. This, of course, is not in line with what the USGS geologists are saying. Professor Michael Brainey is a volcanologist at University of Leicester in the UK, and he claims that Yellowstone's next eruption could unleash Armageddon, as we would know. If it's a super eruption, of course. He said Yellowstone will erupt again, but it is not known when this will happen or on what scale. Volcanoes do not erupt according to a timetable or schedule, and the next major eruption could be far away in the future. If Yellowstone were to erupt, the ramifications would depend on, of course, the size of the explosion. The last time it erupted was VEI-7 explosion. It's experienced three major eruptions, super eruptions in history. The earliest was 2.1 million years ago, then 1.3 million years ago, in events dubbed the super eruptions, and the last extreme explosion was 630 years ago. That was the double eruption, and again a super eruption. And something that would be similar to this, of course, would be again catastrophic. Professor Burns said the area in and around Yellowstone would be buried in hot ash from pyroclastic densely currents, and it would, of course, do away with all living animal, fauna and flora in the region. Volcanic ash would have fallout far across central and eastern US in the northwest Atlantic Ocean. It would bury crops, it would bury towns, preventing ground and air travel, hazardous to inhale, choking up drainage systems and causing floods. He says in time, biota tends to naturally recover from these environmental catastrophes, but the human populations and infrastructures would be hugely adversely affected, of course. He also went on to explain and offer reassurance to anybody living near Yellowstone. He said, Yellowstone is constantly being monitored by the U.S. Geological Survey. That means that an enormous eruption would hopefully be preempted. And he said, should a large explosive eruption happen at Yellowstone, there would probably be some warning, because precursory activity, that is ground deformation and earthquakes and gas release, tends to escalate before large magmatic eruption, and the volcano is being monitored. Now we know that Yellowstone has a tremendous amount of gas release. It's releasing about 45,000 tons of carbon dioxide every single day, and because of the huge amount of carbon dioxide coming off of Yellowstone, that's the reason why the geologists wanted to find out why that was taking place, and they used that study to ascertain that there was a huge magma reservoir under the magma chamber of Yellowstone. Huge magma reservoir, over 2.5 times larger than what they thought it was. Now, what would happen if Yellowstone were to erupt again? To have a super eruption, that is, because after the 630,000 year eruption, we had a 70,000 year ago eruption and 80 eruptions since then. Now, the USGS calculate how such an enormous eruption, a super eruption, would affect nearby regions in the short term, meaning years to decades. And USGS statement said parts of the surrounding states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming that are closest to the Yellowstone supervolcano would be affected by pyroclastic flows. That's the ash flows. While other places in the United States would be impacted by falling ash. Such eruptions usually form calderas, broad volcanic depressions, they said, created as the ground surface collapses as a result of withdrawal of partially molten rock, the magma from below. Fortunately, the chances of this sort of eruption at Yellowstone are exceedingly small in the next few thousands of years, they said. And we know that recently, geologists have found that there is a mantle plume underneath Yellowstone, and that comes from Baja California, and it comes from an area that is also supplying the west coast high-threat volcanoes of California. One arm goes to the west towards California, and the other branch goes towards the east, coming under Nevada, Utah, and spreading up towards Wyoming under Yellowstone supervolcano. And we also know that Yellowstone has the tallest geyser in the world, Steamboat Geyser, that has had record eruptions this year and last year. It's the tallest geyser in the world. It can go up to 300 feet of steam plume. We also have 60% of the geysers in the world in Yellowstone, and Yellowstone has over 10,000 geothermal areas. Fast idea of the magma bodies underneath this area and what's feeding Yellowstone. This is Seismo Berkeley, the little map showing us this area is Yellowstone, and you can see this fault right here. This is Baja California. This is where the mantle plume starts and is feeding one arm to the west here, these high threat volcanoes, and then the other arm spreading, going under Wyoming, under Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and continue up towards Montana. And this is the area that is being fed by the mantle plume. Now, the reason that it's spreading this way is because the Pacific plate, the tectonic plate, which is going underneath the North American plate, is like a table, like a cover. It's like a cover over the magma, which is being pushed under this area here. So this is the area feeding this whole area to the west. This same magma is feeding Yellowstone to the east here. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.